Episode 48, Bandersnatched. Welcome to the Visionary Variety Podcast, where we cover all kinds of cool stuff like photo, video, film, books, and technology. So switch on your brain and enjoy the show. Welcome to the show, listeners. Today we're going to be talking about, you guessed it, Bandersnatch, which is kind of a movie episode of Black Mirror on Netflix, and kind of blew me away. Very fun, very entertaining and creative. We'll get to that in a minute. On the show with us today, we've got myself, Gabriel Grove. We've got our regular co-host, Nate Gunn.
Hey.
And we've got with us my brother, Gabriel Grove.
Hey, what's up?
Gabriel has been on the show before, but just to reintroduce him, he's a karate teacher in New Braunfels, and he owns Trinity Martial Arts. He's also a very talented digital artist. You can find his work on Facebook if you look up Inked Ninja. That's INKED Ninja, all one word. Facebook.com/Inked Ninja. He's got some really cool concept art, a lot of landscape, fantasy, some sci-fi stuff in there. I love that kind of concept art, and if I had more time on my hands, I would try to learn to do what he does, but I don't have the time, so I just look at his art. I live vicariously through it.
It does take time.
Great stuff. I hope you can find some more time to keep working on that stuff, Gabe. Before we get to talking about Bandersnatch, how's your week been, Gabe?
Pretty good. Just kind of recovering from the holidays. Everything's kind of getting back to normal with the karate school schedule and work. I'm taking this semester off from school, so everything's kind of smoothing out pretty good.
Nice. And how's the baby doing?
She's teething right now. She's 6 months, a little over, so it's kind of crazy. And we're transitioning her also to a flat surface in her own crib. So that's, that's hell, but it's okay.
A very wet and saliva-filled hell.
Man, it's like coming from nowhere. I don't understand.
Our baby is 3 months old, and she is just drooling like Niagara Falls, and it is so gross. You can't just wipe saliva or baby spit up because it like duplicates as you wipe it.
It gets everywhere.
It spreads. It does. I learned about conservation of mass is that mass can't be created or destroyed, but I'm pretty sure my baby is creating atoms out of nowhere, and they're going to destabilize and destroy the whole universe because we're going to drown in baby saliva.
Yeah, there's like a pocket universe in the saliva glands.
Saliva dimension. Ew. I feel really gross right now. Nate, how's your week been?
I'm just going to add one thing. We're talking about the guy that, not to be gross, but we all watched your thing on Facebook where you tried breast milk. And I'm like, whoa, dude. I know that's old, and I know we're digging through the closet of some old videos, but ew.
That was my chance to a viral video, and it went like 12,000.
Oh, my.
Oh, wow.
Dang, dude, never mind. Bravo.
12,000 people saw me drink breast milk. It was awesome. It was my chance of fame.
Out of bottle. Context.
I cringed so hard. I was like, oh.
I mean, I prefer it from the tap, but, from the bottle is okay.
Oh, no. TMI. And did you get any haters, any crazies on there?
I had a lot of people saying, you're such a hero and so amazing. I don't know what lives I saved from making a protein shake from breast milk. But I did have like 2 or 3 people say, that's disgusting. I can't believe you recorded that.
That morning, they probably had cereal with milk in it from a stinky cow that farts all day and eats dirty grass with poop in it.
Cows produce more methane than cars. I don't understand why that's more normal.
My week's been good. Like Gabe, kind of recovering from the food coma from all the holidays and sugar. Just a lot of food, unnecessary galore.
Diabetes.
Yeah, pretty much. Every year. I think that's why the New Year resolutions start, because they're like, just in case. But I haven't really had anything else outside of family and holidays going on, which is nice. Been able to work on some just personal stuff. I enjoy videoing stuff as a hobby and doing fun stuff, not so much work and paid work, which, I mean, that's fun too, but it's kind of fun. It's fun.
Do you like getting paid?
Yeah, I mean, but it's fun, keeping it as a hobby, kind of remembering why I like this and not, okay, I'm going to smash my head in the table now because my file just crashed, or something silly. But and of course, I just attended a Rampage hockey game, which was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, the refs kind of were being like that teacher in recess are like, no fighting. And I'm like, what in the heck, man? Like, this is
Boring.
hockey.
What else do you pay for?
Exactly. It's like goals and hitting, and a lot of it was just goals and roughing up another. And I was like, hit him, dude. Come on. Like, he violated you
face.
clearly.
He looked at you weird. Punch him in the mouth.
Off air, I came to the conclusion that hockey is literally just UFC on ice, or that's what it should be. If it's not, then you need your money back.
Yeah, no, it's been good. It's been a quick, easy, laid back, disappointing hockey game. But, no, it was a lot of fun. I appreciate it. I like having family that knows people that gets me front row seats. So,
Oh, nice connections.
So one brother made 12,000 views off drinking breast milk. And how about you, Daniel? You got your 60-second docs released not too long ago. So how's life after being famous?
Well, it's been interesting. I've had about 100, maybe 120 friend requests from strangers.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And I thought, oh, these are just like people that like my photography and they want to be personal friends with me on Facebook. Kind of weird.
Connection.
Yeah, after I had about 80 of them, this is just on Sunday, it released Friday morning, I decided I'm going to figure out what's going on here because we didn't have any mutual friends. And so I devised a message. I said, thanks for the friend request. I am curious, though, how'd you come across my profile? Because I noticed we didn't have any mutual friends. You know, something nice,
I do the same thing.
professional, just straight to the point. Basically, who are you?
Yeah.
In a nice way. Because I want to know, who are these people? So I copied and pasted it to about 15 different people that had just sent me friend requests, or that Facebook showed me I had friend requests from them. And this was New Year's Eve. I had nothing better to do. And they actually responded. They said, I don't know what's going on. I never sent you a friend request. And like 6 of them within an hour all said the same message. Like, I don't know who you are. Hi. And I didn't send you a friend request.
Nice.
Weird. What the heck?
Yeah. So my conclusion is that Facebook is doing more weird crap. That's another reason why I don't trust or respect Facebook, because it's just too big. They've got too much power and they're doing decisions for us that they think are great. And they are things that are stupid.
I think the biggest one about Facebook that made me sad is when, if you don't like interact or like a page for a while, they unlike it for you. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Yep, that's a real thing. So
That's
in case
annoying.
the listeners are confused what's going on, Nate and I, and also Gabe, we have Facebook pages. It's different than a profile. A page is for a business or a service or a personality, something that I do. For me, it's photography. Nate has one for his videography called Interviso Creative, and Gabe's is Inked Ninja for his art. So I can invite people to like my page. And if the button is gray to invite them, that means they already have liked my page. So over the course of the past few years, I've noticed people that I have known like my whole life, and people that I know have liked my page, customers, like recent customers, have not liked my page. So I invite them and I wrote them, it's like, hey, it's kind of weird, but didn't you like my page like, last year, last month? And they're like, yeah, totally. And I said, okay, go to my page and look. And it says like the page. So they haven't, it unliked it for them. And they know that they liked it. Like, I have various people that have said, I know for a fact that I liked your page, and I'm looking at it right now and it's not liked. So Facebook unlikes pages on your behalf if you do not interact with them enough. Yeah, isn't that nice of them? And now it's sending random friend requests for no apparent reason, other than the fact that I'm viral and I'm getting a lot of attention on my video.
Clearly, Facebook doesn't need you to be a part of it, and they have your life pretty much under control.
Hey, maybe this ties into the bulk of our episode. We're talking about free will today. And
Whoa.
deciding your course. Whoa, deep. At this very moment, my video is at 203,624 views, which is super awesome. We hit the 200,000 mark in 4 days, and I'm pumped about that. I'm looking forward to the 1 million mark. It's coming.
Sooner or later, you're going to get on the Ellen DeGeneres show.
Yeah, if she still has a show by then. All right, so I mentioned New Year's Eve. I had a little bit of a strange one. 2 of my oldest kids were sick, which means I had to stay home with them while I put them to bed, and they cried and sniffled and were sick. And then my wife got to have fun with the younger ones at a friend's house with fireworks. By the way, I believe fireworks were illegal in San Antonio, but that didn't stop them from lighting so many fireworks that it caused the air quality to become hazardous. Did you guys read that?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, the air quality
So
drifting to West Texas was hazardous because of San Antonio. So yeah, that was the start of my New Year's Eve. But because the kids went to bed early, I was like, "What am I going to do?" And I had learned about this Bandersnatch thing like that day. And I'm like, "What the heck is this thing?" And then I got a few glimpses that it was interactive. And Gabe, you did a post about it,
Yeah.
and that was like all I knew. I was totally clueless, and I like going into things like that most of the time. If I know a movie is like well received by a variety of groups of people, including nerds and non-nerds, then I'm like, okay, this has got to be some level of good. I'm just going to go totally clueless and just have like a fresh experience with no trailer, nothing in my head. I've done it a few times and it's pretty cool. So that was like that for this. I didn't watch any trailers or anything. So for the most part, I was like, what is happening? But it made it fun. So yeah, I took about 3 hours, I think, watching,
Same, but
quote unquote.
goodness.
Quote unquote watching this movie. I don't know how long it really was. It says an hour and a half, but that's
That
a
is
lie.
a lie. It's like hour and a half times every version you watch.
Yeah.
10 hours later.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I think I understand it
So
now.
you had an interesting New Year's. Not only did you find this movie, but then you had Facebook friending people for you. So you kind of live in a weird dimension
Yeah.
already.
Yeah, so Bandersnatch. Gabe, how did you hear about it, and what was your experience like watching it for the first time?
I think I also saw a post about it on Facebook, and I was attracted to it first by the name for some reason. It was just a weird name, and someone said it was interactive, and I first thought, well, how do they do that? So I saw Netflix advertise for it and saying that on certain devices you can interact with the show. And I was thinking, whoa, that's something new. I've never heard of that being done before. So I was really curious, mainly for how will I interact with the show? I don't understand that. And then breaking the fourth wall, that was cool. So I just had to watch it, and I gave about an hour, 45 minutes, and I went through just one scenario, and I was done. I haven't watched it more than that.
Nate, what about you?
I heard about it from you, and I was like, "What is this?" And then he's like, "You're gonna watch this? You're gonna watch it?" And I'm like, "What the heck are we talking about?"
Do it.
And so I jump on Netflix, and I've already was told it was interact, and I was like, "Okay, so do I need like a VR? Because that's not gonna happen. So I'm gonna have to watch like the cheesy way, and everybody's gonna have like a really awesome." I was like, "Oh no, it's like with your mouse or your laptop, desktop." Unfortunately, I didn't finish it on my desktop. So I watched every single scenario option
on auto
choice that you can pick, really messed up things. And
I think there's something wrong with your phone because you're on an Android and you're using the Netflix app. It should have worked.
That's what I'm
It's just weird to me.
I just went with it. I was like, well, at least one thing I won't have for this episode is the choices I picked. Oh no, I take that back. I picked Frosted Flakes at the beginning.
That's a good choice. Good choice.
So, that changed everything.
Everything.
Yeah, no. If I just would have picked the other one, he probably would have been happy and rode off in the sunset with his dad. But no. But
Breakfast of Champions.
Yeah. So I watched it all the way from start to finish, and I think it was a good, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 hours that I had to watch of all the different scenarios.
Sorry about that.
And it was just tripping me out a lot. And by the end of it, I did not feel that great. Honestly, let's put it this way. Okay, I don't do well with like R movies that are like super nasty and all that jazz. But I know, come on, I know. Oh, he's a big boy, but he's afraid of things. Yes, okay, whatever. Let's just get that on the table. I don't have the stomach for a lot of things, and that's fine. I don't need to prove anything to anybody. But I was at a grocery store, our local HEB. And
in the meat section?
Yeah, no. I just was doing what you do in the restroom. You just walk if you're a dude. Or you have the fortunate part of just walking up and unzipping and going to the restroom. Well, then I'm the only one in there. I think a couple of people left. And this dude, about my height and build, I'm about 6'3". I look like a football player. I have a beard, brunette. And I see
single and ready to mingle.
Yeah, I see like this guy, and he looks like it looked like I was looking at myself, but I didn't see his face. And he goes in the stall, and I look down, and he's wearing the exact same shoes I'm wearing, and wearing jeans. I was like, nah, and no, later. I could see I could see his hair, and his hair was short like mine. I was like, nah, I'm good. I know that's not a thing, but I'm watching this weird movie. Apparently I have no control, and he's here to finish the movie. And forget that.
Oh my gosh.
Apparently I've done something wrong. Bathroom breaks are not acceptable. I'm like, so,
There's a glitch in the Matrix bathroom. It's a good thing you didn't talk to the other you, because you might have like disrupted time-space continuum and destroyed the universe.
I mean, I know that sounds cheesy, but it's just like I was kind of already in a funky, weird state. Today was really, really cold and gloomy, and I'm like, yeah.
It was.
So that's perfect weather for a paradox.
It was really windy and
Yeah, there you go.
really dark. And like as I walked out of this grocery store, like the wind was blowing really hard and a really big storm was rolling in. I was like, I'm getting in my car and going home.
Yeah, today was like major cuddle weather, and I come home like, I'm ready to cuddle my wife, and she's like all snotty and sick. I'm like, oh, okay. Never mind.
It was a good experience watching this movie, other than I needed an adult after, and seeing myself wear my shoes in the bathroom, totally public area.
I also heard about it from, I think, the same video that Gabe mentioned, where it was like a dude saying how like amazing this movie was, and how it's like done something that no movie's ever done. I was like, sheesh, what is this movie about? Like, I mean, Black Panther was like awesome and did something that movies haven't done. So like, what's the deal with this movie? So that was what I initially heard about it. And then I heard him say Black Mirror. I was like, oh, it's going to be interesting. Black Mirror is something else, man. It's a cool show. Not for the faint of heart, especially the first season episode about the pig.
Yeah,
I just could not keep up with that episode. Ralph. So yeah, that's all I had going into it.
Yeah.
It was a fun trip. I love the story setup. I don't want this to come off weird, but I enjoy stories where the character has some form of mental illness.
Yeah.
I know that's really weird. But I like it as a storytelling device for a few different reasons. First of all, because it's bringing, notice and attention to something that has been taboo and like unspoken for decades, right? In the entertainment industry. And now it's something that's coming to public attention, which is good because mental health is important. So that's one part of it. But also it's different. I don't have the issues of this character. So it's interesting to see someone with a different mind and a different experience in life. And his experience in life was quite unique. So there's that. And also it just makes for a lot of possibilities as to, if someone's hearing voices, well, what are those voices? Where are they coming from? Or when are they coming from? But in this case, he's having delusions, kind of grandeur, I guess, but also tendencies and feelings of having to do something, and they're beyond his control. I'm sure that could be diagnosed as some form of mental illness with some medicine, but like, what if there's more to it? What if he is literally being controlled and he's not, quote unquote, crazy? I love that. That's a great story setup, and that's what the story's about. So for those of you who have not watched yet, this is an episode unlike the last episode with the Star Wars Holiday Special. Unlike that episode, this episode, I do encourage you to actually watch what we're talking about.
Oh, no.
So yeah, don't watch the Star Wars Holiday Special, but do listen to that episode about it.
It's not for the faint of heart. So if you want to go watch something trippy, but survive, go watch the Christmas special.
But if you want to continue on with this episode and not have all the fun taken out of it, definitely go watch Bandersnatch. There is some intense moments in there. I think there's some cursing, but there is some violence, some grotesque implied violence, and it's not for everyone. This is definitely R-rated, so there's that. This is not for kids. But yeah, pause it right now. Go watch the movie, come back and finish it. And like I said earlier, you're going to need at least 3 hours. Just give yourself 2 to 3 hours of time to like do the different outcomes of this story. Okay, you're back. You've watched it, right? Your mind is blown. Okay, we can move on. So this is obviously an interactive Netflix experience. There have been some interactive episodes or movies done before this, but they're all children's shows. And they were kind of done as a test because initially I thought, this would be great for kids. Kids interact with movies regardless, right? Like Dora the Explorer, they ask a question. What do the kids do? They answer. They shout at the TV as if it was really interacting with them. And Dora always says, "Good job," no matter what they say.
And now they want to make a live action.
I like that awkward pause, waiting for the answer.
The wait.
If they're actually waiting for the answer, but they're not.
Someone should make like a funny video taking advantage of that, and they like shout like horrible things or like, you know,
Good job.
yeah, insert awful answer, and then she just says, "That's right." That could be quite entertaining. Maybe that's already been done. So unlike those, this was really interactive. They're taking advantage of the fact that kids naturally do interact, out of ignorance. So those were a success. And then someone had the bright idea in May of 2017. Hey, let's do an adult version. Like let's aim this at adults and see how it goes. And that's when they started planning this, and some genius wrote this script and started to adapt it into the interactive format that they were brainstorming how to make it not just multiple endings, but that the decisions that you made along the way would stay with you and would affect other outcomes. And there are at least 3 instances that I know of in Bandersnatch that stick with you and will affect things later. Maybe 4, actually. So, and we'll get to that later.
I'm excited to see who takes this now and makes it even better, because this was like the first time, and the first time of anything is always pretty bad compared to what they're going to do later. So I don't know. I'm kind of excited.
Yeah, and this turned out pretty good. So I'm like,
Yeah.
man, what are they going to do next? Like you could do a comedy, you could do a romance, like a rom-com, you do anything. And I would love to see anything done with this format because it's just so different and it's fun. I am a huge story junkie. Like I might not like a book, but I'll finish it because I just need to know how the story ends. I want to know like how the author tied all the loose ends up and how they finished it and how, what happened, what the surprise was. I love story, and interactive story is just like, this is even better. So I'm very intrigued by this, and I definitely want to, I do hope that they can find the budget and find the time to make more of this, because I think that would be really cool, as long as it's made well. All right, so let's talk about some of the endings and the routes that we took to get there. Nate, were there any endings that you particularly did enjoy or were surprised by, or maybe some endings that you just hated?
The fourth wall, I guess what you can call it. I mean, if you haven't seen it, Gabe, I'm sorry, but where they go cut and Netflix interrupts the directing and stuff.
Yeah, the window.
Yeah.
The window escaping decision, right?
Yeah. And I was like, wait, what? I'm like, I'm very confused what's happening right now. And he's like, I don't remember his name in the movie. And they're like, okay, Mike, you're going to be doing this. He's like, who? And I was like, whoa, he doesn't even know. And
he didn't know where he was.
And I was like, that is what is happening right now. And that kind of pulled, it pulled me out watching the window scene. And then when he didn't know who he was, I was like, whoa, like that's even more, whoa. Like now I don't know what's happening at all. Like, I don't know what I'm even watching at this point. A couple endings I didn't like was, they didn't show it, but you could hear it, was the disposing of the dad. Not the burying, but when he had to make him into small pieces, I was like, wow, like this is not an alternate that I like at all. And it was the end. I was like, whoa.
I tried to avoid making that decision, but it bottlenecked me into it. I had to. It's like, no, this is not right. You had no choice.
It was very dramatic on a couple of the scenes of like him hitting him with the ashtray. I was like, man, dude, you have a good like hit, because I think it's like, because dude, I don't know. I mean, I could see it busting somebody's face open, but that way, I don't know. It was a little movie magic just to get to the point. I don't know.
We've got an expert on hitting people. Gabe, what's your say on that?
Expert at hitting people, yeah. I was also kind of disappointed of that little ashtray killing the guy. I mean, I guess if you hit the skull hard enough and it's hemorrhaging from the inside out, and then he kind of bleeds to death while he's unconscious, I can understand that. But
yeah, but it looked like he attacked him with like a sledgehammer. I mean, I was like, what the heck, dude?
Well, the forehead does bleed quite a bit, so I think the blood amount was actually very realistic from an actual sharp object hitting the forehead, because you get any kind of nick on the forehead and bam, it's just geyser of blood.
Faces bleed.
So I think the blood was actually very accurate, the color and how it flowed. Not that I know, but wow. But
it was a great segue, but sorry to push you in that corner.
But killing him from that blow wasn't very realistic. But I also felt kind of bottlenecked.
He did hit him in the temple, though. That's a sensitive spot. I don't know.
Yeah. area. I don't know. It wasn't very realistic, but it made for a good story, like you said. But I was forced to
Yeah.
make it, and I knew it was coming anyway.
It was kind of interesting watching the couple outtakes. And for like I said already, if you haven't seen it, my bad. But the one part was like he wasn't controlling, and he's like, "Dad, get away from me!" And then he still hit him, and then it was like he was possessed, and then I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
what is happening?"
Early on in the story, I think it's the first time where you see him trying to fight the decision, but he can't. It is when he's in his room programming.
Yeah.
And like you tell him to pick up the picture frame, and he tries to reach for the book. But because I pick up a picture, he can't reach for the book, or vice versa. I think it was the opposite way around. And he's like, his hand is like trembling. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I see what's happening. I am controlling him, and he's trying to fight my will, but he can't because I'm controlling him.
Did you find yourself talking
that
to
was a
him,
cool
like
moment.
telling the TV, "Pick it up. I told you to pick it up," or if it was just me? I did that.
That's just you. Pick it up, you
Sarah was
worthless.
wondering what I was yelling at, and then Sarah came around the corner. What are you talking about? He watched the TV, and I said, "Watch. He's gonna pick up the picture because I told him to. He doesn't want to, but he has to." And he was struggling, and I said, "Pick it up," and he did. I said, "Yeah, that's right. I told the guy on TV to pick it up. He did."
I'm paying $7.99 a month to control you.
And I did that without the Infinity Gauntlet.
Oh.
You know, what's crazy is being on the other side of not having options to pick. When he's sitting in the therapist's office, apparently there was an option where he could pull an earlobe or bite a fingernail.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I was told.
Yeah.
But
that's
when
right,
he was
yeah.
going to bite the fingernail, it looked like he was going to bite the thumb off, and he slammed his hand down. I was like, whoa. And that was remember, I've had a little bit of a disability here, like a handicap. I didn't get to choose. So that was my first like instinct. Like, yeah, I know he's mentally unstable in some part, but like the interactive of bringing what it looked like he was willing to bite his thumb instead of the nail. It was like, whoa, like this dude is not okay. Like he's willing to go to great stints of like irritation and frustration to actually take a body part. It looked like that. I'm not saying that he would have, but that was my first like, whoa.
Let's all acknowledge this kid is a great actor.
Actually, yeah. I was kind of surprised.
Yeah.
He did a great performance. That's what it was. It was a true performance of just
his
it was
ability
great.
and his facial expressions and stuff, but his posture really annoyed me. I hated his posture.
There's one scene that really was jarring to me with his body language and his face, but was when he was in the living room walking into the kitchen where his dad was, and it was coming up to the killing scene.
Yeah, that was good.
He was just like, his arms were up in the air, and he was like scratching himself, and like he just couldn't handle reality. That was like, whoa, that's intense.
Yeah, that hit me hard.
Okay, so the actor's name is Fionn Whitehead. He was in Dunkirk.
Oh,
that's crazy.
So,
I forgot
Dunkirk
about
was
him.
a pretty big production, but I'm pretty sure this is getting a lot more attention and a very different audience, and I'm hoping it launches his career because it's pretty awesome. So I mentioned that surprise earlier where he was fighting the urge. That was really cool, and it really started to click in my head. Like what I was doing was I was controlling him, and that he started to catch on to it. And then of course we get to the big moment where you can choose to tell him that you are Netflix.
I thought that was a
classic. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
He's like, what is
it was
Netflix?
Or the symbol, right? The little multi-choice graph thing that the crazy guy drew. That was it, right? Yeah, and that was I went with Netflix first. I was like, I want to see what happens when I tell him I'm Netflix. And I liked it because he couldn't, you or the monitor was explaining what Netflix is, but he couldn't understand it because even though this is just like 20 years off of like public internet, still like streaming wasn't a thing. Online wasn't a thing.
Kind of puzzled me a little bit for him to be a programmer gamer. And I understand that there's at that time, there could be talk about certain advancements, but for him not to even comprehend that like online gaming or anything like that, and he was like, what does that mean? Like, I was like, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember what year this was. Was it like 1984 or something?
Yeah, 1985, I think. 1984, 1985.
85, yeah.
But I mean, like,
I think they had those home modems, but the maybe the term online wasn't used. I don't know. I mean, I can see why he would be totally lost.
Thinking to myself when I was younger, thinking about like now, like streaming services and gaming online or other things, that we do or do not have. I was already thinking about that kind of stuff. And I don't know, it
Mm.
kind of pulled me out for a second. It was funny that it was Netflix, but for him not to know, I was like,
Yeah, I liked it. I felt like it was sort of that scene like from Avengers where Thor is like, you call it magic. For us, it's just advanced science or whatever, something like that. If you're far enough in the future and you share what it is with someone in the past, they just can't wrap their
Yeah.
head around it because it's just too far.
Yeah.
I guess
It's a
I try
few
to put
leaps
my
ahead of
own
them.
opinion on the movie instead of just enjoying
Mm.
what I
What
was
ruined
watching.
it for me was the font of Netflix was the exact font of the branding of Netflix, but his monitor can't comprehend that. Like, there's only pixels in a certain spot, and the Netflix
Oh,
font
really?
was like our resolution, but it
Clear.
wasn't his resolution of his cheap monitor. That was
I didn't notice that.
That's funny.
Apparently, there was a weird Easter egg where at the end of one of the endings, there's like this humming, like droning sound. And if you record that into a vintage computer, it gives you a QR code visibly. And then you can you can scan the QR code and it takes you to a pseudonymous website, I guess, for Nosedive. And you can actually play Nosedive.
that's cool.
Isn't that crazy?
Dang.
It's like, man, they just really went all out with those Easter eggs. But Black Mirror, in case you didn't know, Black Mirror is all about Easter eggs.
Yeah.
Every episode in the Black Mirror show is in the same universe, at least loosely. Maybe multiverses like Stephen King, but they are connected.
Yeah.
And throughout all the shows, there's little names and people and objects and artifacts that all connect things. And I love that. I love that connectedness.
Yeah.
The season finale of season 3 or 4 had an episode with the actress who played Black Panther's sister. I'm having a brain fart. And in that episode, they're walking through this museum of like objects, kind of like the collector's room in Avengers. And there's all these random little things in glass cases, and they're things from various episodes.
Oh, cool.
And that's cool. I love that. I love that mystery and the connectedness of it all. So we talked about breaking the fourth wall, and in case you're not familiar with that term, that refers to when an actor in a production, like a TV show, talks to the camera because they're talking to you as the viewer, as if they know they're being viewed as a source of entertainment. I think of a sitcom set like in a living room, right? We've got the back wall, we've got the left and right wall. Well, the fourth wall is basically would close them off from you, but they're breaking through that wall and talking to the audience sitting in the chairs, talking to the cameraman. Other shows that do this is Deadpool, American Psycho, Fight Club. I've Spaceballs. Who added Spaceballs to the list? Because I don't remember that scene.
Yeah, it was whenever the Darth Vader character he looked at the camera and said something like, "When would I ever see this in a movie?" or something like that. And it was some stupid scene.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I forgot the exact scene because it's been years since I've seen it, but it was something like that.
My favorite fourth wall breaking has got to be Deadpool because it's comedic, and he's not only breaking the fourth wall, the fact that he's in a movie or in most cases in a comic book, but he's breaking the fourth wall of superhero cliches. Like he's making fun of superhero stuff. And I love that. I just love to make fun of stuff. Like last night, my wife, she started to watch Bird Box. And I said, "Oh, really, honey?" She's like, "What?" I said, "I'm sorry. I just have to make fun of popular things. I can't control it." But I love to scoff at and make fun of anything that's popular or mainstream. Oh, I mentioned earlier there were things that stuck with you through the whole show. The first one is, of course, the cereal that you choose. So later in the episode, based on what you chose at the start of it, there will be a commercial on the TV about that cereal that you picked. So in the back end, there's some kind of parameter that gets checked true or false. And later on down the road, a video clip is picked based on what you chose.
I didn't pick that up. I forgot about that. I forgot what I chose.
Yeah, well, you missed it's subliminal. It pops up on a TV somewhere later on. Another thing that sticks with you is once you have learned about your mother, that affects future like trails and choices. So in the process of you looping back, whenever you have got to the point where you learn something about the mom, I think it is, or you learn something about the past, then your future choices are going a different route. I don't remember exactly, but you can see a very detailed flow chart online. There's a few of them floating around that show it all the arrows and curves and loop backs and the choices and stuff you can make. It's pretty cool. And I am a sucker for flow charts, so those are especially fun to look at for me. That's about all we can really say about Bandersnatch. Like I said earlier, I do hope that there's more of this. I hope that somehow either other shows pick it up or there's like a central place to like get interactive shows. I don't know. That would be kind of fun. Combined with VR, that would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's gonna be trippy when movies start going VR.
I honestly wondered that, like not in the sense of like you're picking an option, but far, far in the future, maybe not so far, when we have computing power to simulate full 3D environments and do interactive like AI stuff where, you can choose as one of the characters in a movie that's somewhat pre-programmed, you can just walk up and punch someone in the face. Like what would happen after that point? AI will decide, and then maybe it'll guide you back on track to certain, a few different branching options. But I think one day we'll get to a point where movies are less movies and more of an immersive experience where you can kind of make your own path, and that'll be a trip. That'll talk about escapism. I mean, you can't get much more escapism than that. There was a lot of interesting stuff that the Netflix team had to do in order to make this happen. One of them is they made something called Branch Manager, which, from the sounds of it, is an actual program that they wrote for this, I guess, that handles all the different branches, manages the branches of their stories. And it, I guess, helps the back end trigger video clips and stuff like that ahead of time, or get the video clips ready to play when you make your choice. So a lot of brainstorming, and I'm sure a lot of very stressful meetings trying to figure out how to make this work. One of the guys said, it's really just like we filmed another episode of Black Mirror, except it took twice as long, cost twice as much, and we had 12 nervous breakdowns instead of one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even though this movie made me need an adult and in the fetal position and everything, whoever the team was, I know it says Netflix, but whoever took the time, sweat and tears and all this, I'm like, dude, like y'all are way smart, because
slow clap.
Yeah, I could not keep. I mean, I could keep up with the story that I was watching, but to be able to know everything that's happening so that you can portray a certain story, I'm just like that. That's where my head starts hurting. I'm like, I don't even understand how that works to get there of what you told me in a story.
I have some fond memories of bewilderment around a choose your own adventure book that one of my brothers had. Gabe and I can't remember if it was him or if it was our older brother, Michael. Yeah. But someone, maybe both, the family had a book that was very thick, and it was, I want to say it was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but I think that it wasn't that. It was something else, maybe Jules Verne or something similar to that, where you could choose your own adventure. It was one of those books that, this movie references. And I was like always just so like mind blown. I was like, how does this work with a book? I understand how you write a book. You write a story from start to finish, but how can there be multiple endings? And like, how can you pick different options? And I kind of wrapped my head around it now, finally, while I looked at these charts and these branch manager screens of how they laid this show out. And it really is just a decision tree where, yes, you go to the left and now this happens, a new box. Right, you go to this box, but when it's in a book form, I assume it's like if you go, if you choose yes, then you get skip to page 20, which tells a 20-page long story. Or if you choose no, you jump to page 40 and you continue on from there. And the rest of the book, just kind of branches out into multiple endings, and that's really cool. I have loved that aspect about good RPGs where there's different endings, your decisions affect stuff. Do you guys have any favorite games that do that?
I'm not to say like I knew what I was playing, but I played a lot of games that you picked multiple choice, but I never finished them, nor could I tell you what I played. But I mean, I've played them and I know what's happening. I can't say that one game.
That's okay. Well, Gabe, why don't you bring up Mega Man and Star Ocean?
Yeah, some of the games that I could think of that I played, hundreds of hours, literally, was my favorite ultimate game. Even still today is Star Ocean 2. I probably played, I think the longest time of the 10 or 20 times I've played was like 280 something hours. 4 CD game that the graphics were terrible, and I think that's how they could be so big. But the graphics weren't really a focal point. It was more like the story, and then the interaction between the characters, like along the story to beginning to end. I think there's a total of like 14 characters you can choose from, and like these I don't know, side quests you can have a character join your party, and each character has like offers a different ability of fighting or skills or spells or whatever, or like party assisting spells. And then from then they might interact with another character that joins your party, and you accumulate these. I think they're relational points or something, RPs. And on the side quest, you can choose to talk with another character in like a new village you come into, and on the party disperses amongst this village, and you can talk and follow their side story and side quest of finding this lost kitten, and that builds relational points. And then at the end of the game, depending on who has what amount of relationship with another character, changes how the video game ends. And there's like 40 something, 42 or 43 alternate endings with the 2 possible lead characters and then the 14 total characters and all the combinations in between. It was awesome, and I'm now talking about it kind of gives me the itch to play it again.
Oh no. I replayed through that game a few years ago. I used a PS3 controller on my laptop and an emulator for the PS1. And I played through, I think it was 40 or 48 hours, or maybe 42 hours. And it was just like nostalgia overload.
Totally.
I loved it.
The noises, all the noises, and the music.
The music.
The music was really good.
The music.
Well, then another one was Mega Man 64. Was that what it's called? And that was
a cool
like
game.
a whole offshoot of the universe of what we know of as normal Rockman and Mega Man. And this was like if they took the name off and changed it to like Minor Boy or something, then it would make more sense. But like the color scheme of the character and then the name was the only thing similar to the normal stuff.
That game was really cool because your decisions in the game would affect how good or bad you were, which would then affect how conversations went. And I don't know if it affected the end result of like the major story points, but the interaction like in the cities would be different. Like I think you could do bad things like kick trash cans, and you could destroy vending machines and stuff in the city. You could probably like kick cats and stuff. I don't know.
Color of your armor, like you start off blue, but you could it goes the darker shades eventually to black, and that was goal of mine a long time ago is to get the black Mega Man armor. And not that it does anything for you, it just looks black.
But the concept was cool. I was like, hey, like I'm changing how I am. Yeah, they tried. Now Star Ocean 2 got it right. They did some awesome big spanning changes that did really matter in the end. Like you would hook up with this character, or this character would hook up with the other character, or maybe you'd leave the planet or you'd stay at the planet, things like that. I just like that. So that aspect of RPG playing has been here for years. And while researching Bandersnatch, I learned about something very interesting that I want to look into more. It's called Twine. And Twine is apparently an open source program for non-linear storytelling. And that means it doesn't follow one line from point A to point B. It has multiple choice and different outcomes. So if you type into Google, type in Twine open source or twinery.org, you'll find it. And hey, maybe that would be something cool to play around with. So apparently you can generate an HTML page that will be a story. You read a paragraph or see a picture, and you've got multiple choices. And based on what choices you pick, it will lead you to, different parts of the story that, of course, the author will set up ahead of time. And you can download this and make it and use it for free. So that sounds kind of cool. And they apparently use Twine to kind of set up the basic premise of this movie, I think. And then they moved on to, of course, planning production details and stuff like that. And then they actually did the video clips. But Twine was involved in the early storyboarding phases of this movie. Another game that comes to mind when we're talking about video games is Detroit. Now, I haven't played this, but Detroit is a sci-fi movie where I think you are an android and you work for the cops, and you're dealing with, at least in one scene that I saw, you're dealing with a suicide person who is going to jump off a building, and you come up to kind of negotiate and calm them down. And based on how you guide conversations and the things and the reactions you choose in the game to say or not say is going to change the outcome.
I saw that. Yeah, it's more of a recent game.
Yeah, it's pretty new and it looks beautiful. And there's other situations where there's like an active shooter and you're trying to negotiate and talk with them, and your decisions and your conversation will literally change, the end, or affect people's lives. So cool concept. And I think the programmers that made that part of the game were the same ones that did the like the choice system in Mass Effect, which is pretty well
Yeah.
done as well. Similar story, similar situation where your decisions affect things later with character interactions, romance, and whatever. So yeah, I love all that stuff. Brings me back to my good old RPG days.
Yeah.
Lastly, one big theme that we get out of this is that free will is not really free, at least in the case of Stefan. So, he thinks he's going to do what he wants to do, but really he's doing what we want him to do. But in the end, I felt like I was only doing what Netflix wanted me to do.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a paradox. Maybe someone's watching me watch Bandersnatch. Whoa.
It's Facebook watching you watch Netflix.
Oh, gosh.
Oh,
Dang it.
You need to zoom out to another screen.
Talking about all these different walls and like whoa moments. I don't remember the name of the character, and I don't need to, but I could just say the blonde guy with the glasses. That was the game creator, whatever his name was.
Colin.
How did
Colin?
every time you met him, how did he know something about you or something like how we met?
Yeah,
or,
he said, I've met you before, haven't I? Yeah.
Or he started quoting stuff that they had previous conversations before, like the first day. He said something. Oh, isn't that the time that he killed that lady? And he's like, yeah, that was before he was crazy. And he's like, oh yeah. And then like the next day he quoted it, and I was like, whoa, what is happening?
He's kind of
he took drugs. That's all I can say.
mania too. Like he's not fully exploring the that whatever Bandersnatch demon causes the time loops. But I think he's also caught into it, but not really exploring it. So he might also be experiencing it somewhat.
Can we just say he looks a lot like Sid from Toy Story?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I'm not a big fan of this actor simply because of his role as Eustace in Chronicles of Narnia. I hate that character. But also the actor's eyebrows just really I can't look at anything but his eyebrows. But I was really relieved in this character that he acted as. He wasn't like a total a-hole. Like I was like, oh, he's going to be a know-it-all. This, Stefan is a newbie program. He's going to just put him under the bus and just walk all over him. But he was nice and helped him. And he was it was cool.
Well, he was also in The Maze Runner, and he also played an idiot. But
oh, that's right. Yeah.
The only time I thought he was weird is when they went to his apartment. I was like, yeah, no. You make me question playing Pac-Man now because Pac-Man is being controlled. And when he goes in and he completes the game, he goes in another maze, and he's okay with that. I'm like, well, I don't want to play Pac-Man anymore. And so
it's all a lie.
Yeah, it was trippy.
His drug-induced rant was something else.
Can we just
wow? Can
we just stop and say bravo on the CGI effects, when they were tripping out? That was really well done.
That was crazy.
The pictures morphing and his face morphing and him playing with the lights on his fingers.
Yeah, his eyes were melting out of his socket. That was cool.
That was gross.
The random scary monster demon looking thing that popped up at the end that kind of what the heck is. They did a really good job.
I really that character that they brought in. That demon character was also known by the first guy that experienced this variable thing control, and he was. That's what led me to think that this variable time loop is being caused by that specific creature.
Well, I thought it was interesting when he handed off the recorded documentary. He's like, "What is this? Just watch it, play it in the background, and you'll get inspired." And when he was talking about different stuff, they are jumping between him actually working in reality and the pre-recorded stuff, talking about how he was so smart and then he went insane and then all that fun stuff, talking about the guy on the documentary. What threw it off, I was like, whoa, is that him? Is he watching a documentary of himself in the future? Because they were doing the exact same shapes and stuff. And then what made it even more trippy was gross enough when he killed his family, he used the blood to make the symbols. And then in one of the scenes for Stefan, when he killed his dad, he used the blood for symbols. And I was like, whoa.
Same thing. Yeah, there was a lot of weird callbacks and tie-ins, I guess you'd call them, inside the stories. So we've got the big question of free will. and of course a little bit hinted at the simulated universe theory, which is an actual thing where some people, postulate, what if we're in a simulation right now, similar to the Matrix, where the people in, modern day New York think they're in the real world, but they're actually living in a digital simulation, and their real bodies are, in the future, like 2600 or something like that. And in their minds, they're a simulated 21st century living their life. So the simulated universe theory basically says that is that we are at the hands of a smarter civilization and or a super powerful computer that's running our life for some unknown reason, and there's nothing we can do about it.
I've always had that weird thought about like, what if you woke up tomorrow and you were a kid and you were just in a simulation of your life and what to do and not to do?
But I also found some interesting stuff about free will. I unfortunately didn't have a lot of time to research this in depth, but to be honest, it is quite a scholarly topic. Is that a lot of philosophers now believe that free will is more of an illusion. And from what I gather, they're basically saying that, we've thought for, eons that our free will is our own choice, right? We can just decide whatever we want, and that's what we do. But neuroscientists and philosophers and things are saying, no, that's not really accurate. Now that we know more about the brain and impulses and neurons, we're learning that, you're making decisions based on situations around you and based on chemicals and based on your prior experiences. So it's not really free will. It's more like multiple attributes playing into your ultimate decision. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like it's more of a thought experiment kind of situation. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I think it's kind of contradictory because the ones saying that we're under a simulation, they're coming to that conclusion, but isn't that kind of like an infinite loop? They're being forced to come to that conclusion that we're being forced to come to that conclusion.
Did the master AI program you to come up with the conclusion that it exists? Like, why would it do that?
Yeah, it's kind
It would block
I don't
us.
know. I think it's just contradictory in the end. To me,
Yeah.
that's a topic I haven't, like in philosophy, I haven't really learned to verbalize.
Have you seen the 13th Floor movie?
I think I saw it once before, and I remember I liked it a lot. But I only watched it
Yeah.
once.
It's worth a rewatch. I honestly want to do an episode about it because it's a great mind bending movie. Pre-Matrix. In the 13th Floor movie, there's a simulated VR world, and so we're like, we've made a fully functional like miniverse, and we can go in there and interact and have fun. But then what they learn is that the people who made it, which is us, modern day engineers and programmers, that we are a simulation of a civilization above us. And so the higher up civilization is like, oh my gosh, our simulation just made a simulation.
Yeah.
And it's just like, whoa.
Inception stuff.
Yeah, it's great. I love that. I love that reveal. It was just like, that just got awesome. So I just put that out there. I guess I just spoiled the movie, but couldn't help myself. The movie came out like 20 years ago, so shame on you for not seeing it. I think that about sums up this episode. I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on the movie. Did you just hate it? Did you like it? Were you kind of in between? And what endings did you particularly like? What would you like to see done with this technology in the future? Do you want to see just normal rom-com stuff, or you want to see like a dark fantasy or like a Lord of the Rings story or a sci-fi space exploration colony story where you can decide what to do? I would like to see all of it, honestly. I'll take whatever they can make. Well, Gabriel, thank you for joining us on this episode.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Thanks for listening and have a great week. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so that you won't miss any of the future episodes. You can also find our previous episodes there and listen whenever you want. We love to hear from our listeners, so if you've got any comments or suggestions for a future episode, you can always reach us at tvvpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again and have a great week. You can tell you went to a hockey game. That's cool.
Yeah, that was fun. I wanted them to punch each other in the face, but the ref kept breaking it up. I was like, gosh, dang, they're men. They're not children. Let them hit each other.
This is hockey, not Disney on Ice.
Gosh darn it, just hit them. And they break it up like, now. I'm like, look.
Yeah, I paid for actually a UFC fight, not really a hockey game.
It's just a really big cage. Come on.
It's the biggest UFC cage ever on ice.
Nice.
UFC on ice.
UFC on ice.
That's what hockey is. That's hilarious.